So for this particular interview, I am back in my home state of Ohio, and I'm here with Lauren Fiala. And Lauren is the winemaker at Baci Winery, and that's in Madison, Ohio. How are you, Lauren?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you for taking the time to be with me.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. This is a fun place. For our listeners, I'll give you a little bit of background. Originally, we interviewed Art and Doreen, the owners of St Joseph Vineyard here in Madison, in this very same property. But they sold the property some years ago, and now it has become Baci Winery. And I was curious, and I got a chance to meet Lauren, and here we are. That's a little bit of background. Let's talk about you and your particular start in wine. As I often ask people, what wine bit you on the leg that, was the kind of the thing that you wanted to really pursue this?
So I didn't grow up in a family that was part of the wine industry, wine world at all. My dad drank cheap beer, cheaper the better, and he was kind of a contractor. He would paint, he would do drywall. And my mom was an art teacher. I mean, she would have her occasional drink of wine here or there, but I wouldn't say I came from a background in this. I started in agriculture. I actually grew up in Peninsula, which is located in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So I really enjoyed being outside, and I knew at an early age that I wouldn't be inside. I wouldn't have a desk job. So I wanted to be outside. And my first thought was that I would be in the national park and actually be outside and doing all those fun things with nature in some kind of maybe research capacity. But it kind of took a turn. I started working at a Christmas tree farm in Peninsula, Heritage Tree Farms, and really enjoyed working in nature and being part of that. So grew Christmas trees, grew daylilies, and to be honest with you, those are very forgiving plants, really easy to grow. I wouldn't say I have that green thumb that I probably should have to do all this. They wanted to transition potentially into grapes. We started growing grapes in the national park, which is very difficult to do when you've got deer and other issues like that. So fell in love with it. Fell in love with growing the grapes. That's where I started. So my feet were firmly planted in the vineyards, which comes at a cost because obviously you've been around, you've seen, you've talked to different people, and you never know what's going to happen. You can have a frost or a cold spell in the middle of winter and lose everything for the following year. You can have diseases, or like I alluded to, deer can mow down your vineyard before it even starts. So that kind of was a challenge for me early on. So I transitioned into winemaking because though there are unpredictable things, there's a lot of things that as a winemaker I can control. As long as you're paying attention, as long as you're doing the right things in sanitation and you've got a good palate, you can pinpoint things a little earlier on. So I still love working out in the vineyards, and I still help when I can out there. I'm very active in the vineyard, but I would say that the majority of my time is spent in the winery, and that's really where I fell in love with it. So I wouldn't say it was one wine that I fell in love with. I think it was more being out in nature in general.
If you don't mind me asking, how many vintages do you have behind you?
Oh boy, I don't think you're supposed to ask that of a lady, but
no. That's how I get around that question.
I know. So I started when I was 18, and I did a couple vintages here in Ohio. So I started off at a winery, the winery at Wolf Creek down in Copley, Ohio. That's where I fell in love with wine. Then I ended up doing a couple international harvests, one in Madison in New Zealand, so it's North Island, and then one in the Limestone Coast of Australia. And then worked in the Finger Lakes on Seneca Lake for about 3 to 4 years. So there was a point when I moved back to be with family, because Ohio is where I'm from, and that's why I'm here. Not that I don't see huge potential in Ohio, because I absolutely do, but I'm here for family. And I kind of transitioned and started doing some sales and wine education at that point. So there was a point where I wasn't in wine. So then I worked at a couple Ohio wineries, Marco Vineyards being one of them. So as far as how many vintages I've done, I mean, I would have to say it's going into over a dozen or so at this point of true harvests.
We were talking about Marco before in relation to Art and Doreen and the person you worked with towards the end of his career, and that was Arnie Esther.
Yeah, Arnie Esther was, I call him the godfather of vinifera here in Ohio. He was told he couldn't grow vinifera in this state, and he basically told everybody that they didn't know what they were talking about, and he started growing Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cab Sauv in Cognac Creek, soon to be a new AVA. And
nice.
Yeah, really cool. And he kind of gave everybody, he was a good teacher, and he gave us all kind of that. Art was one of them. I say I'm a disciple of Arnie as well. He was very giving with its time and educating people who wanted to learn in this industry. So I was lucky to have known him and lucky to be able to taste wine with him and be part of the industry he was in.
I think every wine market has an Arnie, has somebody that has really stepped forward, taken the chances, and paved the road. Wouldn't you agree?
I 100% agree. Even Art and Doreen, who were here before, I think they really did a huge service to this industry. I mean, he grew grapes that no one would have thought about growing. And maybe in retrospect, maybe he would tell you that some of those worked really well here and some of them didn't. But you can't know something's going to work until you try it and you experiment. And I'm grateful for people ahead of me who have done that experimenting so that we know what kind of works here.
And I just want to refer for our listeners, it was Art and Doreen, we were podcast number 75. I interviewed them, and a little while after that I saw that they were selling the winery. Eventually it was sold, and the property went through a very slow transition before really roots were taken under the name of Baci. Tell me about how that happened.
So actually, I think the actual purchase was in 2019. So I'm sure most of your listeners were aware of a little incident that occurred around that time of COVID. So that definitely slowed some things down. But Dominic and Shelley Puno purchased this property back in 2019. And it took a little while because COVID really slowed things down. And I think there was a point where they weren't really sure if they were going to keep the property or not. And so when I came in, there was a kind of a, should they keep the place, should they not? And we were able to convince them that it was a worthy cause to have a winery in the Grand River Valley and that it had huge potential here, especially since it had such great history to begin with. So about 2022 was when everything really started happening here. Huge renovations, a brand new cellar, brand new winery was put in place, lots of investments, new tractors, all sorts of new equipment. So it was a slow, gradual thing, but then it all happened really fast. Yeah. And we're still growing and we're still evolving.
Considering you've worked in other places around the globe and you've got a number of harvests behind you, what is for you the greatest challenge in making Ohio wine or just growing Ohio grapes?
So that's a good question. So you can grow amazing fruit out west, right? Like California, Washington, you guys get really great weather. Everything's kind of perfect. You can control your own water. Here, we never know. We've been extremely lucky, and I would say over the years, we've had more good vintages than we haven't. But that wasn't the case 10, 20 years ago. There were more challenges. One of the biggest challenges, I would say, is water. So we get rain sometime, like June, we had a ton of rain, so much rain. And then we had a drought. So we can never predict when that's going to happen, and generally speaking, we don't need to irrigate. So there's these moments where it's like, okay, we have too much rain, and then we had nothing, and it was like, oh my gosh, should we do something about that? It's great so that you don't have to spray as much, because that becomes the real issue, right? If it rains, you can get powdery and downy mildew, and we don't want to deal with any of those things because it can limit what we get crop-wise. So I would say that we have our challenges not only with the weather, but often the creatures that are out there, the deer, the birds, the raccoons. So we do have some challenges we have to face here, but no more than I think any other region.
This can go positive or negative depending on how you want to go, but what makes you crazy about the wine business?
You mean things that I have issues with in general, or like things that bother me in the cellar?
Either way.
Either way. Gosh, I guess there's a couple different things. I think there's two different things I would say. In the cellar, what bothers me is the unknown. Like, I do what I can. I try to be as clean as I possibly can. I try to make sure that I'm doing the right practices on a daily basis. But when I put something into bottle, I overthink it. I am constantly thinking about what ifs. And maybe I shouldn't, because that drives me insane, because I'm like, okay, how could I have made this better? And every vintage, I try to take what I learned from last year and the year before that and try to implement it this year. There's a whole bunch of different new problems every year, so it doesn't exactly apply. But I would say in that aspect, that is the one thing. As far as the industry goes, I think we had talked a little bit about this when we first spoke, that there is this snootiness to the wine industry. There is this, you have to know all the regions of a certain place, and you have to know all the grape names, and you have to know all this information. And I spent my life devoted to studies of wine. And I know the wine regions of France and Italy, and I think that's too pretentious. We don't have to know all that. As a consumer, right? You're a consumer and you just want to enjoy it. Why would that be something that you have to know? You either, the reason that you like wine, let that be the reason you like wine, right? There should be no reason for you to explain to me that you like sweet red, then drink sweet red. Like, it drives me nuts when someone asks me, what is your favorite wine here? Because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't
mean
anything new.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. If you like sweet, like I make a great sweet Riesling. Is it my favorite wine? No, but it doesn't matter what I like. It's what the consumer likes, and that drives me nuts when people talk down to people about it. Like what you like. I mean, I don't see why. I mean, that's part of, I think, why we're transitioning the region. The whole industry as a whole is suffering, is because we've made it this elitist thing, and it shouldn't be. It should be approachable.
For listeners, do they need to make an appointment, or can they just pop on up here and say hi?
Just come in. I mean, unless you're bringing a huge bus, but just come on in, because we've got space. We've got a couple different areas where there's tasting. I highly recommend coming when it's beautiful and it's sunny out, because our patio is amazing. But and we do have food, which is also an amazing addition to the winery.
And for our listeners who'd like to learn about you and the winery online, what is your website?
It's just baciwinery.com. So
you just said that like you knew it.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
I said it like I'd never looked it up.
Lauren, this has been a lot of fun talking to you, and I love your passion. I love this just idea of living in the cellar. Thank you very much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much for coming out and joining me. It has been a pleasure getting to speak with you.